On today's show, turns out Max Strus not going to be making his season debut Friday night against the Washington Wizards, but I don't think it's too far off. We'll talk about that. Plus, I've got injury updates on Evan Mobley and Isaac Okoro. That's all straight ahead on today's edition of Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? My name is Danny Cunningham. You might know me from my time covering the Cleveland Cavaliers, places like my Substack, The Inside Shot, 92.3 The Fan, Cleveland Magazine, and a number of other stops along the way. I want to say thank you to you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. You can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. Be a friend. Tell a friend about the Locked On Cavs podcast. Also, shows available on YouTube. Just search Locked On Cavs on YouTube. If you're watching this right now, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button for me. Click subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. A proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show, of course, is brought to you by Robinhood. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. So Max Strus not going to be playing on Friday night for the Cleveland Cavaliers against the Washington Wizards. He was ruled out on Thursday night when the team released its injury report, came out about 5:30. Kenny Atkinson spoke. So I was a little surprised to see this happen, mostly because, and I know that Shams reported this on Wednesday, that they were targeting a return on Friday. And then Kenny Atkinson was asked about it at practice on Thursday. And he said, Max had practiced for 2 days. He practiced Wednesday in Miami with the Cavs, practiced Thursday in Independence with the Cavs. And they needed to see how he was going to respond to those 2 days of practices. And then, the plan was to get through shoot around Friday morning before the game against Washington and make a final decision after that. So I was surprised to see him listed as out. I wasn't necessarily stunned that he's not playing. I was surprised that they didn't go until Friday and wait until after shoot around to see how he responded to that. I will say, I do not believe that this is a reason to be concerned about Max Strus. I don't think that this is something where he re-injured it today or anything along those lines. I do not believe that. I have no reason to believe that. My belief is that they're being a little extra cautious with Max Strus. I expect him to be on the floor sooner than later. As I've mentioned to you guys, I was told middle of December. Well, the middle of December is here, but middle of December is not one day. Like, it's not that he doesn't play on Friday, December 13th against Washington while he missed his mark. No, like the 16th against Brooklyn on Monday would still qualify. We don't know if he's going to play then. Maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know. I don't think a final decision has been made on that front by the Cavaliers as of now. But I do think that there's a good chance that he plays in that game. I don't think that there's anything to worry about. I know when you see a report from ESPN saying Max Strus is going to play on Friday, and then Thursday evening rolls around and he gets ruled out, instantly your thoughts are going to be, well, did something happen? Did he re-aggravate something? Did he get hurt again? No reason to believe any of that. I believe this is them being cautious, that this is the Cavs saying, you know what? It's a long season. If you're not back Friday, it's not that big of a deal. Plus, when you look at the schedule for next week, let's just say Max plays Monday in Brooklyn against the Nets, right? So let's say he plays in that game. He's then got 3 days off before his next game. Whereas if he were to play on Friday night against Washington, it'd be 2 days off. It'd be a little bit of a quicker turnaround. I think having that 3-day gap before his next game, and then the Cavs have a back-to-back Friday and Saturday, I don't know that he'll play in both ends or won't play in both ends. I don't know what that plan is as of right now. I think that probably matters a little bit in this conversation too. But again, just want to reiterate, I don't believe that there's been any sort of a setback. I think that this is just both sides here, the Cavs and Max Strus, being a little extra cautious, and there's nothing wrong with that. Now, let's talk a little bit about what Max Strus is going to actually bring to the floor when he gets onto the floor, because I think at this point it is worth talking about with his potential return being as close as we kind of all think it is. One of the things that I thought was really interesting that Kenny Atkinson brought up at practice on Thursday was, how good of a cutter Max Strus is. He brought up an instant, I don't know if it was in Thursday's practice or Wednesday's practice, I'm not sure that he specified, but where Max had a cut to the basket that to him seemed perfect. And Kenny Atkinson's offense has included a lot of cutting, right? It's not a isolation heavy offense. It's not an offense where there's a lot of standing around. There's a lot of off-ball movement in the offense that the Cavs have been using this year. And Max Strus is going to fit right into that. He's going to be moving off the ball a ton. He's going to be cutting to the basket a ton. I actually think, and this is probably not going to go down as the best year of Max's career just because he's already missed 25 games. And he's going to miss a 26th on Friday. But I think he's the perfect fit, not only for this offense, but for the group of players that he'll be playing most of his minutes alongside. It's obvious that he's a winner. Last year, the Cavs, I believe, were 43-27 in the 70 games that Max Strus played. They were 5-7 in the 12 that he missed. Last year, the Cavs were, I believe it was a plus 5.3 points per 100 possession when Max Strus was on the floor. They were a minus 1.5 when he was off the floor. There's a big difference between how good the Cavs were with Max off versus how good they were when he was playing basketball. Now, obviously, we know that the Cavs are a really, really good basketball team, if not a great basketball team, without Max Strus on the floor this year because they've proven that over 25 games. But Max can still, I think he can still elevate this team to a level that it hasn't quite been at yet this year. I think he's going to give them more depth. And I do want to talk about what this rotation might look like coming up just a little bit later in today's show. So that is one thing to keep in mind. But two, he's a starting caliber player. Like he has been a starting small forward on teams that have gone to the finals, on a lot of really good teams in Miami. He was a starting player for them. And in Cleveland, there's been a rotating cast at the three. Isaac Okoro has started. Dean Wade has started. George Niang has started a couple of games. I don't know that Max is going to start immediately when he gets back. Like if he plays Monday and is not in the starting lineup, I don't think it would be that big of a surprise. I also don't think it would be that big of a deal because when he does come back, after missing 8 weeks, you're going to be on a minutes restriction. He's not going to be able to come back and just, hey, I can give you 32 minutes tonight. Like that's just not how injuries work. So I would not be surprised if he's not in the starting lineup, but eventually I do think he will be in that starting five alongside Garland, Mitchell, Mobley, and Allen. I think he's a perfect fit too. So think of some of the two-man game stuff that we've seen from Sam Merrill and Evan Mobley this year, where they've worked together. Mobley has generated some really good looks for Sam Merrill. Sam Merrill's gravity has done a really good job of opening things up for Evan Mobley. I think we're going to see Max Strus in a lot of those spots. And the way he moves, the way he cuts, and Sam, I think, is an okay cutter to the basket. I think he's definitely done a much better job of that this year than at any other point in his career. But I think Max is really, really good at that. I think that's where he's going to do things that make Evan Mobley's life easier and better. Like he is going to, just his presence, I think is going to make Evan Mobley a better basketball player. And then I think Evan is going to do things that are going to elevate Max. I don't know that it's quite a rising tide raises all ships type of thing, but I do think that those two players specifically in the Cavs starting five will make each other better. And I think that is something to be really, really excited about. And I think that the other thing, like Max is somebody who's going to give you everything he has every night. He's a winning basketball player. I don't know that there's a better way to describe Max Strus than somebody that is just a winner. There was a lot of conversation on Thursday after practice where Kenny Atkinson basically said, he's somebody who holds that team accountable, where he's not going to be the loudest guy. And if you guys listened to the episode I had where Max was on, we talked a little bit about leadership when he came on Locked On Cavs earlier this summer. He's never going to be the loudest guy. He's not going to be somebody that necessarily leads with his voice. He's going to lead by example. He's going to put his head down and work really hard. And I think that kind of brings forth a sense of accountability. Donovan Mitchell spoke Thursday after practice, and he was talking about some of the things that he's learned from Max this year, despite Max not playing. And I know the story about, Max installing or helping to install a zone defense that everyone thought was really cool, and it was really cool. But he's also, you're like, we won 15 straight games, and Max is like, okay, so what? Like, who cares? What does that matter? Because this team has goals at the end of the season that include winning a championship. And I think as Max, who's been somebody who's played, there are not many guys on this roster that have played significant minutes in NBA Finals. I know Sam Merrill has a ring, but he didn't play a ton in Milwaukee when they won the finals. Tristan Thompson, obviously, but Tristan Thompson doesn't play right now. And then Max Strus. Like, Max Strus is the guy that has kind of been there, done that in terms of the winning aspect from a role player. And I do think that when he gets back on the floor, through the cutting, through the things that don't necessarily show up in the box score, I think shooting, he's going to fit right in. I think he's going to have better looks from the outside than he's probably ever had in his career. I think all of those things that Max is able to provide, I think that's going to help take this Cavs team on both ends of the floor to the next level. It's not to say they haven't been great so far this year, because they have. But I think Max Strus is, and I'm very hesitant to say like he's a trade acquisition, because he's not that. I think that's a silly topic of conversation. But he is somebody who comes in, and when he gets acclimated, and I think it's going to take a little bit. I would be surprised if Max Strus just looks awesome day one. But when he gets his legs underneath him, he's going to make this basketball team better in a lot of ways that I think are going to be really easy to see if you're watching this Cavs team. Now, what does the rotation look like when Max Strus is back? Is Kenny Atkinson going to try and play 11? I don't know the answer to that, but I have a good guess. We're going to talk about that next right here on Locked On Cavs. Today's show is brought to you by Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.25% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. That's Robinhood.com/gold. Robinhood.com/GOLD. Terms do apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. Like I said earlier, you can check out the show anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Make sure you're subscribed. Give us a 5-star rating. Say some nice words in a review as well. So what does this rotation for Kenny Atkinson, what is it going to look like when Max Strus comes back? And I think that is a question that I'm glad I'm not Kenny Atkinson. I'm not the one having to figure this out, because I don't know that you can comfortably play 11 guys on a regular basis. When you're a veteran team, when you're a team that has championship aspirations, it can be difficult to play 11 guys significant minutes. Now, is this something that looks different night to night depending on the matchup? I don't know. I don't know that Kenny Atkinson knows that right now. But I do think that we kind of have to put guys into categories. And we talked about this before the season when everybody was healthy, but I think it's worth bringing back now, because when we had these conversations before the season, we didn't know what this team was going to look like. No one would have said they would have been 21-4. I was high on the Cavs. I thought they'd be the third seed in the East. I thought they'd win like 54, 55 games. Well, now they look like a team that's going to win 60 games and be the 1 or 2 seed in the East. So even for as high as I was compared to consensus, I wasn't high enough on them. So I don't think that the rotation that I would have talked about before the season necessarily applies now. But the way to look at it is there are at least 11 guys on this roster that deserve to play every night and are helpful when they do play every night. The starting 5. So you've got Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen, and for the sake of this discussion, Max Strus is going to be the 5th starter, because ideally he was a starter last year. I have no reason to believe that he won't be a starter this year. Once again, he's acclimated, back into game shape, legs are underneath him, all that stuff. So those 5, obviously going to play every night. Karis LeVert, who, by the way, is having an awesome season. I might need to have an episode next week where I just talk about how good Karis LeVert has been. Karis LeVert is going to play every single night. He should be playing every single night. He's been awesome for this team. I think that there are a lot of good teams in the NBA that Karis LeVert could be a starter on, at least this version of Karis LeVert. So he's playing every night. That gets you to 6. Isaac Okoro is going to play just about every night, I would think. I think he is one of the guys that you're going to see his role come down a little bit. I don't think that he's going to be getting as many minutes when Max Strus comes back. I think he's somebody that his minutes are going to be impacted. I think there are a few guys that are like that, and I think he is certainly among them. I mean, so far this year, he's averaging 20 minutes a night. That might be closer to 15. But I still think he plays every single night for the Cavs. I think he's an important part of this team. So that is 7. Dean Wade is 8. Might be a similar situation to Isaac Okoro. Depending on the opponent, I could see on certain matchups, Isaac Okoro playing more minutes. Against other teams, I could see Dean Wade playing more minutes. That's one of those matchup-dependent things that I think could go up and down depending on the night. I think that is an area of flexibility within the rotation for Kenny Atkinson and the Cavs. So that gets you to 8. I think Sam Merrill's still going to play every night. I do. I think Sam is going to play every night. I think Kenny likes Sam a lot, despite the fact that he's been in a shooting slump as of late. I think he's shooting like 34% from 3 in his last 10 games, and we all expect better of that from Sam Merrill. I think Sam Merrill expects better of that from Sam Merrill. But I think he's still going to play every night. He's somebody else whose minutes could be impacted by this. So that gets you to 9. George Niang. I think he's been pretty good for this Cavs team. I do. I know that there are a lot of Cavs fans that don't necessarily love Niang, that didn't love the signing last year, that really were disappointed in the way he played down the stretch last year. And I get that. And all of that is fair. But I think he's been pretty good for this team. And with somebody of that stature, especially to what he means in that locker room, I don't think it'd be very wise to remove him from the rotation when he's not playing poorly. He's playing well enough to justify minutes. I think he should keep getting those minutes. So he gets you to 10. And then Ty Jerome is 11. And with how well Ty Jerome has played this year, I don't think you can look at Ty Jerome, if you're Kenny Atkinson, if you're somebody else on that coaching staff, and say, hey, you're not going to play. He's been far too good. He's been one of the best stories in basketball after not playing last year because of that ankle injury. What he went through getting back, some of the games he's had, some of the performances he's had so far for the Cavs this year. I don't know how you look at him and say, yeah, you're just not going to play. I don't know how that can happen. Maybe it does, and I'm wrong, but that's kind of why I think Kenny's going to try and play 11 guys. I don't know that he's going to be able to. I don't know that it's going to work. Somebody might get cut out of the rotation at some point. But at least at the start, I really think he's going to try his best to play 11 guys. And I don't know if it's going to work. I think 10 is a pretty comfortable number. I think in a perfect world, Kenny would be able to play 11. I think in a perfect world, he wants to be able to play 11. But it's really hard. It can be difficult to play 10 guys some nights. Playing 11, especially when it's not just that 11th guy gets 5 minutes. When the 11th guy gets 12 to 14 to 15 minutes, it's a challenge because we've seen, Craig Porter Jr. will get a stint in the first half that's like 5.5 minutes and then won't play in the second half. We've seen that stuff happen. But I don't think that necessarily counts as like that being part of the rotation, right? I don't think that counts as that. I think that's hey, this is a matchup thing, or somebody's out and then it doesn't work and the plug gets kind of pulled. That's not what I'm talking about because, yeah, that's possible. You can do that. But I think playing 11 guys is going to be a challenge. But I do think it's possible. I think you could see Isaac Okoro lose a few minutes. I think you could see Sam Merrill lose a few minutes. I don't know that Max Strus is going to play 30 minutes a night. I don't know that that's going to be the case. He is certainly capable of it. He's certainly good enough to be out there for that long. But last year, he played 32 minutes a night, which was a career high for him. He's probably not going to play that many minutes. Now, that would also be leading the team because Donovan Mitchell, I don't believe, is even playing 32 minutes a night. I think he's still under that. But he's the team leader in minutes, and he's not even at that. Yeah, he's at 31.9 a night, so he's not quite to 32. So Max Strus is not going to play 32 minutes. If I had to bet, in a perfect world, he's probably around 25 to 28 minutes. So how do you find those minutes? Sam Merrill probably loses some. Isaac Okoro probably loses some. Dean Wade probably loses some. George Yang probably loses some. You're going to be taking minutes from a group of guys that don't deserve to lose their minutes altogether, but you have to find some sort of time for Max Strus because of that group, he's the best player. He's the most helpful player in that group. He's the guy that the Cavs need to have on the floor the most. He's going to be the one in the starting lineup, I would presume. So they have to find minutes for him, I think, instead of cutting somebody out of the rotation, because it would be much easier to do this. Just say, hey, Isaac, you've played really well, but you're going to be sitting. You're not going to be in the rotation. I think that's, from a just building a rotation standpoint, that's much easier to do. From a team management standpoint, that's a big challenge. That's a really, really big challenge. Speaking of Isaac, saw him at practice on Thursday. Saw Evan Mobley after practice on Thursday. They're both on the injury report. What's up with them? I'll tell you what I know next right here on Locked On Cavs. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book, and for good reason, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. Maybe, just maybe, on Friday night, you think the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to take care of the Washington Wizards. Well, as I record this right now, the Cavs are 17-point favorites over the Wizards. Wizards are so bad. They are so bad. They're one of the worst basketball teams I've ever seen. Maybe you like the Cavs -17, or maybe tomorrow night you like the Philadelphia 76ers favored by 6 points over the Indiana Pacers on Friday night. Both of those teams have been wildly disappointing. I think everyone saw this coming with the Pacers. Not sure how many people saw it getting this bad for the Sixers, but those are just a few of the things that FanDuel has. And FanDuel Sportsbook, of course, gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, NBA, NHL, all of that, all in one place. When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, so much more, all in the same page where you place your bets. Like right now, I'm recording this Thursday night during Thursday night football. It's the fourth quarter right now. The Rams, -230 on the money line, -2.5. The game is tied at 6. I've not watched it. I don't have a hunch, but I could if I wanted to right now. That's exactly what I could do because FanDuel Sportsbook is America's #1 sportsbook. So just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. Like I said, if you're watching this show on YouTube, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button for me, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content, a proud part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So Max Strus was obviously ruled out for Friday. There were two other guys, really a few other guys on the injury report. Craig Porter Jr. will not play Friday. He's going to be with the Cleveland Charge. I do want to talk about them for like 2 minutes at the end of this episode too, because they have a cool thing going on that I think deserves mention. But Evan Mobley, who turned his ankle in that game on Sunday against Miami, he's listed as questionable. He did not practice on Thursday, which led me to believe, okay, probably not going to play Friday. Kenny Atkinson said he's not ruled out. We have to see what he looks like, see how he reacts to stuff, but he didn't practice. And then after practice, he got a pretty intense workout in with assistant coach Jordan Ott. It was right near the media. He was working up a sweat. He was working pretty hard. He looked good. Like he was moving around fine. If he doesn't play against Washington on Friday night, I don't think it's a big deal. If he misses this game, I think it's something where the Cavs are being cautious, and I don't think that they need Evan Mobley to beat the Washington Wizards. Like if they need Evan Mobley to go off and have a big night to get by Washington, that would be a little bit concerning. I don't think they need that. I think they have more than enough to beat Washington, who is really, really, really bad. But Evan didn't go through practice. He's listed as questionable, at least, as of 10:30 on Thursday night. We'll see if he goes through things with shoot around tomorrow. We'll have better answers around noon tomorrow if he's going to play or not. I don't know. The workout he had after practice, though, as I mentioned, it was pretty intense. I know I posted a video on Blue Sky and on Twitter of him shooting And that was just kind of his warm-up, but he got into it. He really got after it. Made me think that it's not a serious ankle injury. It's not a long-term concern. If he misses Friday, he misses Friday, but it's not a big deal. Isaac Okoro is the other one. He's missed the last 2 games, I believe it is, with I think it was a left knee contusion. Did not play in Charlotte, did not play in Miami, was on that trip, but did not play. He appeared to, we did not ask Kenny Atkinson about this. He appeared to go through practice. He had a practice jersey on after practice, was getting in his normal post-practice shooting at the same time everyone else was. He's listed as probable. He looked fine to me as he was going through those shooting drills. So I don't think that there's any real concern there. I would presume that he's going to play on Friday night against the Washington Wizards. I mentioned the Cleveland Charge, and they're doing a cool thing. So tonight, Friday, is their first home game at their new venue. They're going to now be playing their home game at Cleveland Public Hall. If you're unfamiliar with Cleveland Public Hall, it's a over 100-year-old building. It's a really, really cool setup for basketball. They will actually be playing on the Cavs City Edition floor from last year. So remember that Playhouse Square floor. That's what the Charge will be playing their games on. But this building has had some incredible musical acts throughout its history. It's had political conventions. Elvis Presley played there. I believe the Doors played there. The Beatles may have played there too, way back when. So a lot of history in this building. And now I think that this is one of the most unique venues in all of professional basketball, certainly here in America. I wrote a story about this for Cleveland Magazine, took a tour. The locker rooms look awesome. Everything about this. I think it's going to be a really, really, really cool experience. The Charge played home on Friday, which I would presume most of you, I know I will be at the Cavs game. I presume most of you will be watching the Cavs, but they have a home game Saturday too. Saturday night against the Wisconsin Herd. It's a really cool place to go check out a basketball game. I think if you're a basketball fan, it's a really cool opportunity. Plus, Craig Porter Jr. is not going to be with the Cavs Friday. He's going to be playing with the Charge. He's on assignment with the G League. Amani Bates is going to be coming back from injury soon. He'll be playing there. We might see Jalen Tyson there a time or two. Maybe he'll play Saturday. I don't know. But it is an opportunity to see some of the younger guys that the Cavs have invested in, like the ones I mentioned, plus JT Thor, Luke Travers. It's a chance to get to watch them play, which, when they're with the Cavs, you don't necessarily always get to because there's not room in the rotation, but it's a cool opportunity. It's a different experience than going to a Cavs game. It's a much cooler feel. Like you are closer to the action. It's really, really cool. If you're in the area, it's something that I do think is worth checking out at some point. Maybe not this weekend, but at some point. I think it's a really cool thing, and they'll be there for years to come. My understanding is they've signed a multi-year agreement to be there, so that's going to be the home of the Cleveland Charge for several years now. But Cavs back in action tonight, taking on the Washington Wizards. It's a game they should win. If they win, I'll be back here after with an episode. If they lose, I'll be back here with an episode right here on Locked On Cavs. So like I said earlier, thank you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. You can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. Be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure they're subscribed as well. And if you're watching the show on YouTube, do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up button for me. Click subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. I will be back with an episode this weekend. And then hopefully the whip around is back on Monday as the Cavs will have 3 games. So I'll be back with 2 episodes on Monday before the Cavs take on the Brooklyn Nets. But I will talk to you this weekend with more Locked On Cavs.